All right. Hello. Who is here? We've got two people. Let's see how long this stream lasts. All right, just put in a little thing in the chat saying what will happen if the stream fails. Scotty, you got the notification. Well, since you're the first person here, we will start the channel updates. What do we have to update? Nothing has really changed from last week. I'm still quite behind in uni work, and so that's going to take priority over videos. Anyway, the topic for this week is hiking and my history with hiking. I'm going to start with how I got introduced to hiking. G'day, Tony. And then we'll go on to the first hikes that I did voluntarily, I guess I'll call it. Self-organised, I should say. My first self-organised hikes. I'll talk about the very long hikes that I've done, and I will also talk about some of the day hikes that I've done. So, starting with how I was introduced to hiking. Like many people, I was introduced through school. I'm sure many people have done a hike through school. How many did I do through school? Proper hikes, like multi-day ones, I think I did 3. I think I did 3. I can't really remember. I definitely did one in year 9 and year 10. I can't remember if I also did one in year 8. Maybe. Who knows? Because I remember like hiking stories from, because I changed schools between year 8 and year 9. I remember hiking stories from the old school, but I can't remember whether those are my own memories or those are me remembering stories from future hikes at that school from former classmates. Anyway, so yeah, I can't quite remember. I think I might have done a bit of hiking in the Grampians with my first high school. Yeah. Grampians is, I've hiked a couple of times, I think, in the Grampians and once in the Alpines. Because I think that, my year 10, God, I should have got my story straight before starting the stream. Anyway, I'm pretty sure, actually, I've hiked in the 3 major mountain ranges of Victoria. So Grampians, Alpines, and I know that the Alpines is a huge area, and the Otways. I've definitely done a hike in all 3. So that does confirm that I did some hiking with Cornish College. Anyway, I liked hiking in school, although there was always things that I didn't quite like, or I wanted things tweaked. The hiking with schools was always, you're in a big group, obviously, because you're with your class, and you're carrying everything with you and you're not stopping in any towns at all. G'day, Daniel. And yeah, school hiking is great. It was what really introduced me to hiking. And man, some of the scenes that you see of like scenery when you're walking in these mountain ranges is absolutely spectacular. Stuff that you just won't see by car, even if you've got like a four-wheel drive. You just won't see this sort of stuff because it's only on walking trails. I didn't like on school hikes how the breaks were very prescribed. You didn't take a break when you needed it. You took a break when the teacher, hike leader, told you that everyone was going to be taking a break. And I didn't really like that because in my style of hiking, I prefer to take more frequent, shorter breaks. But in school hiking, they sort of veered more towards longer, less frequent breaks. And I just didn't really like the idea of carrying my whole life on my back. And I know that sounds ironic considering the future hikes I did, but I hated how much space food took up in my pack. And I guess the weight as well. But then again, I've contradicted myself in later years. When I went to Queensland, I had a 25 kilo pack. That was something. In school hikes, we always had a limit of 1/3 of your body weight, and I'm very light. I'm 50 kilos. I have been for the last 10 years or thereabouts. So a third of my body weight is like, 18 kilos, something like that. And they were sort of expecting people to put in a bit more than that, but at the same time, they didn't want to contradict their own rule. So the pre-hike packing days were always fun. So some quick little stories from good and bad experiences I've had in school hikes. This is a time that wasn't so great. I was hiking in a big school group, and I can't remember where we were. I think it might have been the Alpines or it might have been the Otways. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I can't remember the exact circumstance, but a few people in our group got minor injuries, and so it meant that they couldn't handle as much weight in their pack as normal. And so the weight from their pack had to be distributed amongst others. And also we had a group water supply. We had a couple of water bladders. I think they were 3 litres each. We had 2 of them. And so, yeah, I ended up getting allocated both of the group water supply. And if you know packing a hiking pack, you want the weight as close to your back as possible and preferably low down. You don't really want it high up and far away from your back. Unfortunately, that's the only place that I really had to put the group water supply, and water gets surprisingly heavy, surprisingly quick. So, 6 litres of water, that's 6 kilos. So, yeah, say my pack was 18 kilos normally. That means I've now got a 24 kilo pack. So it's quite a bit for me. And I've also got a lot of weight sort of right behind my head. And all this isn't great because we were hiking in a mountain range, and so it's very uneven terrain and very steep ups and downs. to the point where they had like wooden boards in the track, almost like railway sleepers, so that you could grip, you'd have a bit of grip. Anyway, I took a misstep and I fell over, and I sort of fell backwards down a hill. So I landed like that with my head at the bottom. G'day, Sam. And I was like, fell over. I didn't feel injured, but then I tried to, get up, couldn't. Tried to roll over, couldn't, and so I had to end up unclipping my pack and then getting up and pulling my pack up after me. So it wasn't the best experience, and the hiking leader then became gravely concerned for me, being a lightweight person with all this extra weight, and they immediately ordered the 6 litres of water to be distributed to someone else. So that was nice. Lost 6 kilos on the pack, which all hikers will know. Every gram makes a difference. During the school hikes, or at least the Year 8 and Year 9 hikes, I didn't have a big camera. I just had a little compact one, so that was just sort of sitting by my waist, and that didn't take up a lot of space. Even Year 10, I think by the time when we went on the hike, I didn't have a big DSLR yet, and I didn't go hiking in Year 11 or 12, or at least not with school. So camera gear wasn't a big issue for me, but nowadays I've got quite a lot of camera gear, and I do want to take a lot of it, and so it's something that I've got to really consider, both from a weight perspective and from a space perspective. So yeah, that was a sort of bad experience, and I guess I'll talk about one good experience from my school hikes. So this one I know for sure, we were in the Alpines. I can't remember exactly what region of the Alpines. Yeah, I just was directionally clueless back then. It wasn't really until a few years ago that I started paying attention to where things were when I started to drive, because before I started to drive, my sort of vague logic in my head was like, oh, well, other people will take me there, so I don't really have to pay attention to where I'm going. Although having said that, I did like to look at maps, ironically, which I've talked about in the previous live stream. Yet I had no real clue where I was going or what I was doing. But anyway, the good experience was we were midway through our hike, and I think we were scheduled to have 2 days left on the hike. But we got word came through via the sat phone that we were going to have a big storm come in late the following day, which would have been the second last day of hiking. And so they said, okay, well, instead of continuing on your hike and camping where you plan to camp, you've got to hike to a pickup point, and then the bus will come in and pick you all up from there, and will take you to a caravan park, and that's where you'll stay for your final night. Now, my hiking group was more enthusiastic than some of the others. I'm sure for anyone who's done a school hike, you'll know that there are some people who absolutely love it,
And there are also some people who will drag their feet all the way to the end. Thankfully, my group didn't have any of those people, just by pure coincidence. And we managed to all decide as a group that we wanted to get up early the next day, as in well before sunrise, pack up our camp and leave camp at dawn, basically, and we would complete a good part of our hike and get to the drop-off point, the pick-up point, sorry. And so that was one of the best decisions ever, because I just remember walking up the mountain and walking along the ridge of a mountain where the gradient wasn't too steep on the one side, and if the sort of hillside is like that, the track is sort of down here and then the ridge is up here, and there's a sharp sort of drop off on the other side. You could feel a bit of wind coming over, but we decided, a couple of us decided, we wanted to walk up a bit further near the ridge, and wow, that was an amazing experience. Just being up there, looking down, just seeing everything down below and having the wind rush up and over the ridge was just really cool. So yeah, we did that, and we got to the pickup point and got to the caravan park. And the funny little bonus story is that we later found out that the one group that sort of was mysteriously missing had gotten substantially lost along the way. One good thing about the schools was when we were there, when we were on the hike, we had, like laminated maps and a compass, and they got the students to navigate, and the hike leader wasn't supposed to tell you if you were going off track. My hike leaders actually did butt in on the last day when we were almost getting off track, and they said, actually, guys, you've read it wrong. We're going this way, not that way. Another group, the hike leader had chosen not to do that, and the group had gotten substantially lost. And they had ended up clambering over farmers' paddocks and stuff, and over barbed wire, and a few people got fairly cut up from the barbed wire, let's just say that. So yeah, wasn't the best for that group, and but yeah, they had a bit of an experience. They obviously bush bashed a lot, and yeah, the school hikes really got me into hiking, and I could see, this is what I like, but here's what I would change. So Sam asks, don't know what's been discussed before, but what's been your favourite spot in Vic to hike/explore? That's a really tough one. It's very hard to pick a favourite. But my favourite hike has probably been South Gippsland. I can't go past that, and I'll talk about that a bit more later in the stream. And now's a decent time to mention that we're 19 minutes in, so I think that YouTube has somewhat fixed its problem that we experienced last week, so I don't think we'll be moving to Instagram, but don't want to speak too soon. So that's the extent of my school hiking. And then in year 12, I didn't do any school hikes, but I did do 2 major hikes that were voluntary. They were with my friends. Now, these have, funnily enough, sort of been I did them, and I haven't really done any major hikes since. I've just done a bunch of smaller ones, and I'd like to get back into it. But yeah, so a few of you will know that I've hiked a number of railway lines in the past, and so these two that I'm about to mention were the two major ones that I did in Year 12. The first one is the Malort hike. The Malort line runs from Maryborough to Castlemaine, and yeah, it's just the terrain is arid. There's a few trees around and stuff, but yeah, arid is a good description of the terrain. Hiking on railway lines, you don't get very steep gradients, at least not compared to hiking in proper, like, mountainous Otways, Grampians, Alpines stuff that I did with school. But they tend to be longer. So you're walking a further distance in one day, but it's less effort. So yeah, the South Gippsland line was my second one, and that comprised, I should say, the Malort line. All of the track was still there when I did my hike. I think a little bit has been ripped up since, but all of the track was still there when I did my hike. And South Gippsland line, the track was still there up until Leongatha, and then there was a rail trail beyond there. So I've experienced hiking long distances on both actual abandoned railway lines and on rail trails themselves. And I must say, of course, rail trails are easier to hike on, but they're inherently going to be more popular because they're more accessible. You're going to come across other people when you're hiking rail trails. The campgrounds are probably going to be well established, and it's going to be a pretty cruisy time. Whereas on railway lines, you're hiking across ballast a lot of the time, and ballast, it's not difficult to walk on, but it's not as easy as, you know, a gravel path. So yeah, it's just something to consider. And with railway lines, hiking railway lines, you are making up your own route, basically. Well, not your own route, but your own camp, your own adventure. Yeah, they're not meant to be hiked on, obviously, and you'll come across a few surprises, shall we say, along the way. We ended up ditching on the last day or so, about halfway at Newstead, because it was going to be raining for the whole of the next day, and we didn't have any wet weather gear, and none of us really was going to be in the mood for it. And we decided that, yeah, since the hiking was purely for our own enjoyment, that we would ditch and get on the bus, and we would come back and complete it at a later date. And that hasn't happened yet. Hopefully we'll get back into it, because I was very close to setting a date to go back before this whole virus thing happened. So anyway, hiking with friends is great because you all know that you're all confident, you all want to be there, and you'll make great memories. The campsites that we stayed at, obviously a lot of them weren't official campsites. Our general rule of thumb was that if there was a caravan park available in town, we would stop at the caravan park and stay at the caravan park. Multiple reasons for that. Number one being, and this was the main reason, power, access to power. We obviously have all got a bit of camera gear, and we all didn't have that many batteries back then, so we had to be constantly charging them every couple of days, and so access to power points was actually quite important to us. We didn't really care about, you know, phones and stuff and checking social media or that sort of stuff. It's a nice side effect, I guess, but it's neither here nor there. We could have easily gone the 2 weeks without the social media contact. 2 weeks is what it took us to walk South Transport, and that's just the way that the times worked out. Back then, there was only one train a day to Maryborough. Different nowadays, there's two. So, yeah, you might be able to do it differently if you choose to walk Malort. And, yeah, then it took us 2 days of, we did 2 days of actual walking before we ditched. And so on the first night, we stayed just beside the track. If you follow me on Instagram, I published, I don't know, a little while ago, a photo, let me pull it up, which shows our camp spot. Here we go. This was camping right beside the railway line, as you can see. Yeah, that's the sort of thing you do. You just find a flat spot of dirt and you're like, yep, this will do. This is camp. And they can be some of the best camp spots because you know that not many people stay there, and I don't know, it's just nice. And yeah, then the second night we were in an official campground near Newstead, but it didn't have any power or anything like that. So on nights that we knew that we needed power, but we weren't staying, if we were staying near a town, but we were staying in a spot that didn't have power, but we knew that we needed to recharge, then what would end up happening, this was more on the South Gippsland hike than Malort, but I would walk ahead. I'd get to camp first. I would set up camp, start cooking dinner, and then Les would arrive, dump his stuff, and then go find a power point in town. And by the time he'd found a power point, he'd come back. Dinner was cooked, and we'd have dinner, and then we'd go, Les and I would go into town to a power point that he'd found and charged up our stuff. So, yeah, the Malort hike was a good starter hike for us. We got to know what worked and what didn't work, and things to change for the next hike. And Malort, we did. I'm pretty sure it's almost 4 years ago to the day. I think, yeah, I think Les said that this Monday will be the final day that we walked Malort. So, fun fact. Great starter hike. And then the next big hike that we did was the South Gippsland line, and boy, that was a big hike. As I said before, 2 weeks, 150 kilometres. So Maryborough to Newstead was like 30 k's. So what's that? 150 divided by 30. 5 times as long. We hiked 5 times as long, or at least Les and I did. We did the South Gippsland hike. We called it we sort of nicknamed it the Schoolies hike. Not sure about international viewers whether you know Schoolies, but in Australia, Schoolies is an event that happens at the end of Year 12, where all the Year 12s go to a couple of different beaches, typically around Australia, and just get really drunk and do a lot of stupid stuff. And it's a bit of it's an event each year, a major event. And a lot of Year 12s do it to just celebrate the end of Year 12. Now, all of my friends were a bit more sensible than all the people who go get smashed at Byron Bay. And we wanted to do something to celebrate the end of Year 12, but we didn't want to do that. So that's how we came up with the idea of a hike. We thought, what a great idea. We'll have an adventure together. We'll actually remember it, unlike everyone else who just gets drunk at Byron Bay or Torquay or something like that. And yeah, we started planning it out. Part of the planning process with all our hikes involved going in, well, we'd first map out the route, and I've talked about that a little bit in my mapping live stream. We'd map out the route, and we would mark down, we'd do as much research as we could beforehand about things such as where were the public toilets? Was there some sort of water supply in town? Was there a power supply in town? Now, we couldn't necessarily find all of those things out just by researching, but we're trying to find as much as possible beforehand. Then what we would do is Les and I would get in the car and we would go drive as closely to where we were planning to hike as possible, and it's just a patch of flat dirt, basically. And in the case of Nyora, it wasn't even a patch of flat dirt, it was a whole bunch of long grass, which we had to stamp down beside the turntable. But yeah, that scope trip really helped us to figure out stuff along the way and find a few things like PowerPoints, water, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, and we covered over 2 days, and there's always some things like the PowerPoint that you might not be able to have time to find. But yeah, we would find as much as we could, we'd mark it on our map, and then we'd go home, and we would carry a printout of that map when we're going on a hike. And also, I'd have it on my phone as well when we had reception, but a lot of the time when you're hiking railway lines, you certainly don't get reception. Mark asks, hey mate, how is Les? You guys got any big adventures lined up together? Les is well. We do have a couple of big adventures sort of on the back burner at the moment, and I guess I can talk a bit about that at the end of the live stream, but obviously it's all on hold with the current world situation. Anyway, South Gippsland, okay, I'll backtrack a little bit more. We hiked it with 5 people, including myself. And South Gippsland, we started off with 5 again. Now, was it the same 5 people? Well, the thumbnail for this video is a picture of us at Newstead Station. And yes, I think that it was the same 5 of us that hiked the South Gippsland line. So, yeah, the South Gippsland line was a great hike, but it was only Les and I that completed the whole thing. Dylan, Max, and James all had other commitments that they needed to attend back in Melbourne. G'day, Robert. And so they ended up taking the bus back from Nyora, which was, I think, 2 days walk away from the end of the abandoned track. So they didn't get to see quite all of it, but Les and I did. Nyora hiking from, because we started at Cranbourne, that's where the current metro line ends and the abandoned line starts. The first night we stayed in Lang Lang, and then at a scout hall. That was good, and some funny memories from trying to ring up the scout leader to let us in. Turns out we'd written down the wrong number, and let's just say we left a few interesting voicemails on the wrong person's number. Anyway, so Lang Lang was the first night. I've got to check a map now. Oh, sorry, Kubi Rup was the first night, and I think we just, I can't remember where we camped exactly, but yeah, I don't think it was a caravan park. It would have just been beside a line somewhere or something like that. I can't remember. And then, yeah, the next night we camped at Lang Lang in the Scout Hall. Now, I mentioned before that you come across some interesting surprises along the way with hiking abandoned railway lines. That can be as simple as a farmer has put a fence across the line and you've just got to climb over the fence. Or in the case of the South Gippsland line, just beyond Caldermead, the line was completely overgrown, and I mean completely overgrown with blackberry bushes. There was just no way you were going to get past these blackberry bushes. So, yeah, it was a bit interesting, and we were like, okay, so how are we going to get to Lang Lang now? How are you actually going to get past this? G'day, Gerard. We ended up having to turn back from the blackberry bush, walk back towards Caldermead, and then go to the road and walk on the side of the South Gippsland Highway between Caldermead and Lang Lang. And let's just say that's a slightly frightening experience and not the safest thing to do, but we didn't really have another choice. And yeah, I actually ended up, the others chose to walk along the right-hand side of the freeway. I chose to walk along the left-hand side of the freeway. I just happened to walk a bit faster than them all. And they weren't really too happy about me for splitting up from them, and fair enough, but it is what it is. And then they witnessed what they thought was almost an abduction of me on the other side of the road. What ended up happening was an elderly couple drove up behind me, and I was walking sort of, off the side of the freeway, and so they pulled up into the emergency lane and said to me, are you all right? Where are you going? Do you want a lift? I told them, yeah, I'm just walking up to Lang Lang. And they said, oh, we live in Lang Lang. Would be more than happy to drop you off in town, get you off the freeway. And I said, yes, please. I will get off this dangerous place happily. So I jumped into the back of their car and they very kindly dropped me off in Lang Lang. And I just set up camp and as much as I could and waited for the others. They were rather surprised to see me in there. But yeah, they were surprised. They were surprised to see me abducted. They didn't really think that I would accept it, even if it did sort of seem legit. But you know, it was an elderly couple. What are they going to do? They're not dodgy. They were just trying to be nice, and that's one thing I've learned from going to the country is never underestimate the kindness of country folk. So yeah, that's a bit of a funny experience, and now everything's coming back. The Scout Hall was in Kuryurup. That's why I couldn't remember where we camped. The Scout Hall was in Kuryurup. In Lang Lang, we camped underneath a trestle bridge beside a river, and man, that was an awesome camp spot. I'll see if I can, if it's quick enough for me to find the photo, I will show you it. Okay, it's not there. I haven't found a photo of the camp, but I found a photo of the trestle bridge. It's a bit bright, but you sort of get the idea. Oh, that's a bit better maybe. No, it hasn't focused. Anyway, it's a very nice trestle bridge. Gerard says we do it nicer in the country, and he heard sheep in Kuryurup. Yeah, sheep are quite common along in the South Gippsland area, and I know you yourself are not. You're Gippsland. You're not quite South Gippsland, are you? Yeah, okay. I don't think I'm going to find it. But yeah, that was one of my favourite campsites of all time. I really want to go back there just for a night or two, just set up camp underneath that trestle bridge. Because it was such a nice spot. Yeah, and then the night after that was Nyora, where we stayed beside the turntable, and then in the morning, Dylan, James, and Max all had to go back to Melbourne, unfortunately. But yeah, Les and I continued on, and yes, I remember everything got very wet. It ended up, I can't remember if it had rained the day before or what, but anyway, we were walking in the wet, and I got squelchy feet, and my feet were already suffering quite badly from all the walking we'd done previously. Cranbourne to Nyora is, I don't know, it's probably 50 odd Ks, maybe a bit less. But yeah, we decided that we would only go as far as Lock, and then we would get the bus from Lock to Canberra. So, yeah. And now, unfortunately, the line is being ripped up from Nyara to Leongatha. So maybe I should get back there before it's all ripped up, because I know beyond Turramurra has been a bit ripped up already. Yeah. There's another point along the line. I can't remember where exactly, but I was the only one who was, no, that's right. Myself and James, this was earlier on in the hike. So myself and James, we were a bit tired and everything. And yeah, again, it was wet and my feet weren't great. I decided that I wanted to ditch and get a taxi into town, and James decided he would join me. And I got to a point where I got reception and I was on the corner of two roads, called up the taxi company and said, yep, this is where I am, blah, blah, blah. And they said, cool, we'll send someone out for you. And I waited, and after about half an hour, I was like, okay, I've waited a while, the taxi hasn't come, I don't know what's up. So I rang back the taxi company and said, what's going on? And they said, oh, sorry, the driver couldn't find you and he went back to the depot. We'll send him out again. So it's like, okay, fair enough. Waited again. Another 15 minutes or so passed by. Taxi still hasn't showed up. Ring them up again. What's going on? Oh, sorry, we didn't send anyone out. Well, you're going to send someone? Yeah. Okay, all right, good. Another 15 minutes later goes by. And at this point, the phone has died. My phone has died. And James doesn't have any reception on his phone. So we decide to walk to across the road, basically, to a farmer's house or somebody's property at least, and see if we could use their phone. And we did, and they were very kind and said, yeah, you can use our phone, but, you know, what for? And we explained, and they ended up saying, look, how about I ring them up, because it sounds like they've stuffed you around a little bit, and I'll make sure that they don't stuff you around. So they rang up and had a bit of a chat to the taxi company, and in the end got the taxi company to admit that they didn't really want to pick us up. So they ended up hanging up on the taxi company, and they said, look, I feel sorry for you guys. I'll drive you to where you need to go. So we're very thankful of that. Again, lovely gesture of country folk, and yeah, it was an interesting time. I think, yeah, that's right. That was in between Lang Lang and Nyora, and then I ditched again on the next day. So my feet really were bad. So Gerard says, just found an article on the 6 swamp ridges around Coorab. Very interesting. I didn't know about them, so yeah, the only bridge I crossed near that area was in Lang Lang. Sam says, I know you're probably not much of a drinker, but I'd love to do a brewery trip in that area. Lang Lang, Loch and Turramurra. Any other recommendations out that way, and what town out of those should I stay in? Yeah, I don't drink at all. But yeah, there's a lot of breweries around the area. Just follow the South Gippsland Highway, honestly, and stop in all the little towns, because a lot of the little towns have small breweries and stuff. Yeah. As for which of those towns you should stay in, depends what you're after. If you want a great campsite, go Lang Lang. If you want the comforts of a caravan park, then Korumburra is a good way to go. So yeah, Les and I walked as far as Lock, and then we got a bus from Lock to Korumburra, because we were just completely put. And on our South Gippsland hike, we'd planned out, should I say, to have two major rest stops, one in Korumburra and one in Foster. That's where we were going to be staying for a few days to just rest and recover. So we got to Korumburra, stayed at one of the caravan parks there. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but it backed onto a forest or park of some sort, and that was really nice. Awesome little caravan park. And yeah, it was a great place to rest up and recover, and we definitely wanted to rest and recover in a caravan park because we would specifically have power, which we wanted. We'd have the comforts of like the camp kitchen and lounge room of sorts in caravan parks. Just had a bunch of fond memories of various caravan park camp kitchens and rec rooms that I've stayed at. Yeah, quite nice. And yeah, we spent our first rest day in Korumburra just completely relaxing. We did pretty much nothing, and that was great. And then the second day, we were staying in Korumburra. Les's parents drove down, and his parents love the country and stuff. So they drove down to meet us in Korumburra and drove us to, what's it called? Cold Creek, that's it. Cold Creek, which is a historic park, sort of like Sovereign Hill, if you know that, in Ballarat. But yeah, Cold Creek, nice little place, and we all sort of had a little wander around there and met back up with Les's parents, and they drove us back to the caravan park. All very kind of them. Even shouted us a couple of meals. And yeah, they hate to see us starving. They really do. Very nice people, Les's parents. And so yeah, then after Korumburra, we set off again. Got to Leongatha the next day and stayed in the caravan park. Now, Leongatha is the end of the abandoned line, and from there on out, it's just a rail trail. Now, as I said, there's currently plans underway to extend the rail trail from Leongatha to Nyora. But yeah, this is what it was like when I hiked it, which was 4 years ago. So yeah, then it was very easy walk. Stayed in Menion. No camping, no caravan park there, but an official campground. So we had some facilities. Basically, just a toilet. Still, it's better than nothing. Because Continued on the line, stayed in Fish Creek. Now, there wasn't even an official campground there. We just sort of found a nice spot beside the rail trail, maybe a K out of town. And if we wanted to go to the toilet, obviously, number one, easy enough, you just go in the bush. Number two, you can't just go in the bush beside the rail trail, so you've got to walk into town for that. So you had to sort of pre-plan a little bit, but that wasn't too much of an issue. Continued on, Foster was the next spot, and that was at an official caravan park. We got chased out of there when we drove down that way, because we parked at the caravan park. They had boom gates at the caravan park. We're like, all right. Parked our car outside. Nobody was in the office, and so we thought, oh, well, we'll just have a quick squeeze around. We just want to see what facilities they've got, because their website wasn't the clearest. And then, yeah, the owners saw us and had a good yell at us to get out. And we explained ourselves, and they were like, okay, fine, but get out. Guests only. Yeah, so we're like, all right. But when we actually stayed there, that same owner who kicked us out was actually quite nice. So yeah, he found it fascinating that, we'd walked all this way from Cranbourne, and this is probably 100 odd Ks in. And yeah, so you'll notice that each day we're walking around sort of 15 to 20 odd Ks. That I found is a nice limit. You can definitely push it further to, I think, like 26 is the most I've ever walked in a day, and you just get a bit tired after that. So I think, yeah, like say 18 to 20 Ks is the real sweet spot for covering a lot of distance, yet not being too tired and being able to do it repeatedly day after day. Yeah, Foster was a very nice place. Continued on and stayed the next day in Welshpool, and that's when the rail trail ends, sort of. Now, yeah, there's a few different rail trails in the area that don't all quite connect to each other. So this one, the main one from Leongatha to Welshpool, is called the Great Southern Rail Trail, and that's what ended at Welshpool. We just found a flat piece of dirt beside the former alignment that the rail trail hadn't been extended to yet. But yeah, that was interesting. And now at that point, Les was quite fed up and tired. He was close to his breaking point, but I wanted to continue on. And I think that we decided we were going to push through. Yeah, we'd always planned to push through from Welshpool to Yarram, which was probably about 27, 28 Ks, something like that. But yeah, Les decided at Welshpool that he would take the bus to Yarram. I decided I wanted to walk my way to Yarram. So I continued walking, and I don't think I even got as far as Headley, which was, I think I walked like, I don't know, half an hour, about that. And the railway itself had become super overgrown, but there was a road, like a dirt road paralleling the line, so I'd just been walking along that for most of the way. But yeah, the road ran out, and it was a very thick scrub it was going to be very thick scrub from there to Alberton, which is where, or at least, towards that way. Now, there's another rail trail that's separate, doesn't really have a name, that runs from Alberton to Yarram. I should post this map, link to this map. So in the chat right now is a link to a map that shows you former railway lines and stuff. It's a bit of an old map from 1999, so it's a bit outdated, but all of the former stations are there, so you can get a bit of an idea of what the stuff I'm talking about. Perhaps I should have posted it earlier. Oh, here we are now. Anyway, Alberton to Yarram is an official rail trail, but between Alberton and Welshpool, it's no man's land. Now, I wasn't so keen on walking through thick scrub, mainly because I was on my own. I didn't have any form of emergency communications, and I was on my own. So, in other words, if I got a snake bite, that would have been a recipe for disaster. And the Gippsland area is very common to have brown snakes, which are one of the most poisonous snakes in the world. So, fun times. And yeah, I decided, okay, I'm going to have to turn back again for the second time on this hike. But hey, that's half the fun of it. I had a little bit of reception, so I was able to call up Les and say, hey, when does the bus arrive? He said, oh, about an hour from now. And I said, okay, I'm going to have to walk back and join you on the bus, except I'm only going to go as far as Alberton, and then I'll get off at Alberton and walk the rail trail from Alberton to Yarram. He said, fine, I will stay on the bus to Yarram. So that's what we did. My bus fare from Welshpool to Alberton was pretty good. It was only like $1.60, something like that. Considering the distance, that's not bad. And then, yeah, successfully walked to Yarram. Now, for those of you who are looking on the map, you'll notice that the line actually goes further to Woodside. That really is no man's land, and it's in farmers' land specifically now. The line was cut back to Yarram for most of its life. But yeah, Yarram was where we ended it, and it was the end of a fantastic hike. So, reading the comments. Wow, it's been a bit. Fish Creek is a pretty good pub. Yeah, we didn't tend to eat at pubs and stuff. We always cooked our own meals. We bought our meals a couple of times, but yeah, for the most part, we just cooked our food because that was cheaper. I think we managed to do the whole South Gippsland hike, and it only cost us like $150 each, something like that, which is pretty good considering it's 2 weeks, all expenses included. And that's including public transport. Parsley and Gathers station is an old freight line. Yes, in the later years, the passenger service has only reached as far as Leongatha, hence why there's tracks that far, and then yeah, it's a freight line for most of its life beyond then. Fun fact though, the South Gippsland line was the last to have what you'd call a mixed train.
That is a goods train that has a passenger carriage attached to it. Yeah, and they were replaced with rail motors in the final years. Floyd, during your hikes, have you come across any snakes? Yes, we have come across a couple of snakes. As long as you see them before you step on them, you'll be all right. You just sort of stomp your feet a bit and they get scared. They're probably more scared of you than you are of them. And they'll slither off into the bush. But it is something we have to be aware of. And in the past, we haven't carried any proper emergency communications. We've just had our normal phones, and it's not the best considering you do lose reception sometimes. You actually do have at least 1 bar of reception for most of the way, but certainly not all of the way. So that's something I would definitely recommend in the future. Get something like an EPIRB. They're relatively cheap, and it's like $150 to potentially save your life. I think that is a good enough deal. So yeah, learn from our mistakes. Well, yeah, we haven't had any disasters, like somebody actually getting hurt, but I certainly don't want to take that risk. The rail trail from Bairnsdale to Orbost is very nice, with some awesome bridges like the big trestle bridge in the middle of the bush. Absolutely, and I hope to walk some more rail trails in the future. I think Bairnsdale to Orbost is about 90 k's, so it's a significant hike, but certainly not out of my league. Have I considered the old rail track from Warragul through the hills to Newgee? I definitely have. The only issue with that is that a lot of the former line is on private property, and so I would have to go in advance, knock on the doors of everyone's property and get permission to pass through their land. It's certainly doable, but yeah, there's other lines that are my priority. Of course, I'd love to walk more railway lines, but yeah, I've got limited time. Now, let me type in something to the chat. I know we're going way over time, but hey, it's an interesting discussion. /VR space. Okay, so the second link that I've just put in the chat is a link to my map of all railway lines in Victoria. And different colours represent the different status of the line. I know many of you will have seen this map before because I've talked about it before in my mapping episode, but if you didn't know about it, it's a cool thing to check out. So if you're looking at my map now, you can see that the two different colours that I want to draw your attention to are the orange lines and the blue lines, and maybe the red a bit as well. The orange lines are where there is abandoned track. The track is still there, and yeah, it is. It's just sitting there, or at least most of it is there. So yeah, and those lines that are marked out in orange, those are going to be my priority for hiking. And then the blue lines, which are rail trails, official rail trails, they're going to be my secondary priority. And then the red lines, which is the land is through private property, there's no tracks left. That's my third priority.
You'll note on the Nuji line that there is a slight amount of blue lines just near Nuji itself and between Rugby and Crossover. I could definitely smash out those two sections in a day, so maybe I'll do that someday. It's going to be much easier than going around and asking for permission to walk through somebody's land. Sam says, your railway map is sublime. Thank you very much. A lot of effort has gone into that, many hours. But as I said in my mapping episode, I built it for myself, and yeah, it's a continual work in progress. I'm continuing to slowly add tram lines, various bush tram lines into the map. Gerard says, I run the Rugby crossover section every Sunday. Very nice. I've seen pictures of that, and it's a very lovely area. Yeah, covering all of the disused mine shafts and the tramways, I should say, that serviced them is virtually impossible. So I just aim to cover all of the known ones. And I'm working with the Light Railways Research Society to, or at least their maps and their books, to add in all of the tram lines, the known ones. So yeah. Now, I did say I was going to talk about day hikes. We've run way over time, but why not? Let's just continue on. I won't spend too long on day trips, though. In terms of railway lines that I've walked as day trips, I did the Cobram line, which is from Strathmerton to Cobram. The tracks are unfortunately removed from there now. And this is why I said that my priority is walking the orange lines, because they can definitely turn into red or blue, and therefore be less exciting for me. And so I knew that Cobram was one of those lines that was going to be pulled up pretty soon, and I managed to get out there with Les, and we walked it in a day. So that was cool. The only other railway lines which I've walked as a day hike have all been around Melbourne. So if you zoom in on my map to the Melbourne area, you'll see Upfield to Somerton. That is one that I've walked as a day trip, and I guess as a night trip as well. The first time I walked it, we walked it at night, and the second time we walked it is at day. And the second time when we walked it in the day, we started at Roxburgh Park, which is near where Somerton was, and then we walked along the line, and we ended up walking down to Preston, not along the railway line though. And yeah, that was a cool little day walk. If you go down to the Mornington area, I've walked from Baxter to Mornington. And yeah, that contains a section of disused track and a section of tourist railway. And that ended up resulting in the tourist railway, or somebody from the tourist railway saw our video and said, oh, would you like to come down and I'll show you around? You seemed quite interested, and so that was very nice of them. And yeah, we got a few free rides, and that was awesome. Thank you very much to Arthur from there. Very different response from the Healesville Tourist Railway, which was the other line that I sort of walked. I walked from Healesville to not even Yarra Glen. I don't know how far I got. Maybe I did get as far as Yarra Glen. Anyway, there was abandoned track beyond Yarra Glen to Lilydale, but that has unfortunately been turned into a rail trail now. I ditched that hike. You can see the videos of it on Foggy Avenue, by the way. And for those of you who knew that they were deleted, or at least made private, they're back online now. But yeah, I don't regret ditching, but I do regret not going back sooner to walk the last section before it got turned into a rail trail. So you win some, you lose some. Another reason why I said that the orange lines are my priority. Okay, so Daniel says, I would love to walk the old Lilydale to Yarra Glen line. Well, you're in luck because it's a rail trail now and it's an official walking path and you can do it. Traralgon to Maffra rail trail is doable in a day. Yeah, and that would be an interesting one to walk. I hope they reopen the Mornington line to the Metro line. Yes, I do too, but I don't think that will happen anytime soon. Now that we're in lockdown, I'm thinking of doing the Beachy Trail with my dogs. Not sure how to go about it yet. Beachy to Colac or Colac to Beachy or both camp somewhere. A cool thing about my map is that you'll be able to click on various lines and it will tell you a distance. It will give you a readout of the exact distance. So the Colac to Beach Forest rail trail. Now, I thought that the rail trail only went so far, and as far as Barangaroo, but apparently it goes all the way to Colac. I'm not so sure whether that's true or whether it's just on the roads. Anyway, Colac to Barangaroo is 11.5 k's, and Colac to Beach Forest is 36 k's. So you're looking at 37.6-ish k's from Colac to Beach Forest. Doing that with your dogs, I think the dogs are going to get very tired by the end of it. I don't think the dogs are probably going to be up for that sort of distance. But if you want to do it just on your own, look, you can walk that far in a day, but up to 40 k's is a long way to walk in a day. And so, yeah, it's up to you. If I would do it personally, I would probably stay in Jellybrand at least, possibly Barangaroo as well, or something like that. I would probably split it up, but that's my personal opinion. Actually, come to think of it, Les has actually walked the rail trail all in one day. So, yeah, that's interesting. He just said, yeah, he wished he could take it a bit slower because there's a few things to see and he just had to keep going. I've done a couple of other just random day walks. I walked one time from Port Melbourne to Beaumaris, I think. Did I not get that far? Actually, I think I ditched earlier. I think we all ditched earlier. Yeah, that's right. We all got a bit tired because this was a night walk, and so we all ended up ditching it around Hampton, Sandringham sort of area. But still, it's a nice walk. Yeah, I've done a couple of night walks, and night walks are interesting. Yeah, they're different to day walks. It's just more public areas feel more secluded when you walk there at night, because obviously there's less people. Another time I did Portsea to Rosebud, again at night. Les, I think, ended up walking as far as Safety Beach, and had planned to walk as far as Mornington, I think. So, as you can see, it's a bit of a recurring theme that we ditch our walks and we're a bit over-ambitious in our planning sometimes, but hey, yeah. Les has walked one time from Warragul to Pakenham, and that's quite far. He did it when the line was shut down for can't remember why, but there were no trains running. There was going to be no works done on that section of the line. And so, yeah, if you want to walk, if you are going to walk active train lines, I definitely recommend going when trains are not running. I walked a small section of the Warrnambool line, somewhere near Colac. I can't remember exactly, but I was walking from a level crossing to the site of an old derailment, which was, I don't know, 2Ks, something like that. And that line obviously doesn't see too many trains, but it was still a bit iffy walking on it when it's still an active line. It's just good for the peace of mind to just walk if you're going to walk an active rail line, do it when there's no trains running. Peace of mind, and you don't want to get killed. You don't want to get injured at all, and you don't want to startle the driver of the train. So, yeah. This wasn't really going to be a hike, but it's worth mentioning. At one point, we planned to do the Ararat to Maryborough line passing through Avoca. Now, I believe at the time we concluded that we wouldn't be able to allocate the time to hike it, but we would potentially be able to allocate the time to ride it. So we actually got as far as doing a scope trip, Les and I, when the line was still abandoned. And then, yeah, we basically decided in the end that we really didn't have the time even to ride it. And yeah, I wish that I took a few more photos, because on the scope trip I didn't take any photos because my theory was, oh well, I'll just take all my photos when I actually ride the line or whatever. But then that never ended up happening, and now the line is no longer abandoned. It was completely redone, and yeah, it's now used on a somewhat daily basis. Let's see. Daniel says it would be cool for K163 to do mainline trips again. Yes, it would be. Sam says I did Port Fairy to Warrnambool easily in one day. So thinking they'll be, with the dogs, sorry, in one day. So thinking they'll be fine as long as we have food, water, and a few breaks. Okay. I believe the rail trail only goes from Port Fairy to Kororoit. But geez, let's add this up. So Warrnambool to Dennington is 3 k's. And then the disused track beyond Dennington is about 2 k's, so we're what, 5? And then nothing for about 10, 15. And then Kororoit to Port Fairy is another 18, so 33 k's-ish. Yep, you could well do it. Beach Forest to Colac. Up to you, I guess. K184 was the loco, that pulled the last broad gauge train to Queenscliff. Oh, cool. Or closer to the grass or road if you're walking an active line. Yes, if you're walking an active line, if you're walking an active line and at any time really, but especially when you know that their trains are still running, yeah, walk to the side if at all possible. Sometimes that's not always possible. Just minimize your time on the actual track itself. Yeah, future plans for hiking. The next major trip that Les and myself and the old hiking gang will probably do is the old SEC tracks around Rubicon. I do have a rough plan in place already about how we're going to do that. And I'm going to film a documentary type thing of all of the Rubicon hydroelectric scheme. So the tracks themselves you could easily do in a day if you were just walking the tracks. But because I want to be filming a documentary of the entire hydro scheme and walking it all, and we're going to walk a few of the disused parts. I should say the parts that don't have any tracks anymore. Then in that case, yeah, we're going to be doing it over 2 days, most likely 2 or 3. Yeah, that's our next major hiking trip plan. Semi-major, I guess. In terms of the next railway line, which we plan to walk that's going to take more than a couple of days, well, we've got a few options. The main ones on the card is Haywood to Mount Gambier, Eaglehawk to Inglewood, Echuca to Lambah, and Springhurst to Rutherglen. The other lines, such as Burns to Moulmein, is 130 k's, very barren landscape. We may do it one day. It's not a real priority. Sea Lake to Colwyn could be interesting, but again, these lines are ones where we would have to have some. We couldn't really do it self-sufficiently. Or at least it'd be very difficult to do it self-sufficiently. We would probably have to have a what do you want to call it? Somebody helping us out to deliver supplies and stuff to where we're camping. And Shepherd and Dookie is also on the cards as well. That's 30 odd Ks. We'd probably do that one in a day. Generally speaking, if I've got a heavy pack on, between stopping and taking photos, eating lunch, etc., breaks, everything, the daily average walking pace is around about 4 Ks an hour. So that's what I found from actually measuring it with the GPS on my watch. And so that's how we plan in future hikes. Yeah, I can talk a bit more about planning at another stage, how to plan stuff, how to learn from your previous hikes and trips and whatever. But yeah, I'm sure that we'll have many more day trips, and yeah, I hope to get into walking a few tramways as well as actual railway lines. It is a goal of mine to walk every disused line in the state, and every rail trail as well. But yeah, I know that won't happen for a while. Yeah, it'll just take me many years to do that. And one last thing, Marina to Portland. There's currently no trains running on that line, even though it's not really abandoned. Before this virus situation, I very much did consider walking that line. Now, who knows? Maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. Okay. The Port Fairy area is very flat. The Colac and South Road is very steep in sections, yes. If you could, would you build your own miniature steam loco? It would be cool. It would be very cool. But at the same time, it is quite a costly exercise in building your own track and everything like that. And so my only thought with that is, for me, it's like, well, for every dollar or whatever that I spend on that sort of thing, why not donate it to an existing heritage organisation? Tourist railways, they always are in need of a bit of money. Couldn't my money be better used in there as opposed to something which only I would enjoy? So just something to consider. Gerard says, thank you for some human contact in these days of lockdown. Thank you very much. I'm glad that I can be of some relief, I guess. And yeah, I'm feeling the lockdown as well, and spending a bit more time on the phone to friends. Okay, I'll answer this one question that's off topic, and then I'll end the stream. What are my favourite food outlets in my area? Well, I live in the Hampton, Brighton, Sandringham sort of area, and there's just a host of good food. Anything on Hampton Street is very good. Particular favourites are restaurants such as Jirachio, that's a Japanese restaurant. Roti Bodhi, that's a great Indian restaurant. And there's a couple of other good ones as well. Oh, can't forget the Svolta and Fazio's, which are two excellent Italian restaurants. La Svolta has got just about the best pizza you'll ever taste. Otherwise, in Brighton, I don't go to Brighton area to eat that often, but there's a few things around like Church Street and Bay Road, that sort of thing. Bay Street or Bay Road, I can never remember. I think it's Bay Street. And then getting up a bit further towards like Elstonwick, there's a few good things around on Glen Huntly Road as well. So yeah. Anyway, we are an hour 36 minutes in as we speak. So yeah, it's been quite the live stream. I'm glad that it was successful and we didn't have any major problems, thank God. I hope that everyone has enjoyed the episode. It's a bit longer than usual, but hey, we've still got 8 people watching. And yeah, I hope you enjoy my map. I love it. As I keep saying, I built it for myself, but I've published it because I would love everyone to use it because I think it's just a great resource. And yeah. All right. That's it. Thanks everyone for watching. Next stream is going to be on a Friday in 2 weeks' time. All right. Thanks everyone again and see you later. Bye-bye.